don't become, kind of uptight about things. Kohinoor is only one, Facebook is only one, Instagram is only not every company is going to be that. The girls generally typically go through the beauty contests and the guys go through the startup contest. And I think you have to be shameless in asking people for money. If you think, then I think that's very rarely it happens that you get a call, and that may happen. Other thing I find a lot of startups in today's market, they are not defensible. I mean, they're like copycats of something, right? And you may find that you may become very big, but there are many companies like that, and everybody can start a company.
Welcome to my show, and you've been in the business world for quite some time now. My first question to you is, for youngsters today, if you're 18, 19, 21, the perception is, oh, you got to be serious, you got to be all about life, you got to be super career oriented. I mean, that's the starting part of it. But eventually, as you mature like wine over time, you will also realize that this entire thing is, you start taking it lightly and you start playing around with it and all of these. So asking you now, sir, what advice would you give 21-year-old Mr. Sanjay Sehgal if you had to go back?
If I were to go back, if I were to go back in time, tell my 21-year-old self, I would tell him to be a little more serious, by the way, because I was not as serious. But to today's youngsters, I would say that they should be, they should chill out. They should chill out and be bindas. See, what I have learned over time is, be sincere in your effort. Be hardworking. Don't shy away from hard work. All that is fine, but don't become, kind of uptight about things. There's more to life than just success. And success is not, once somebody gives me a mantra, I would like to share with everybody. He said, instead of looking for a Kohinoor, there's only one Kohinoor. He said, look for string of pearls. That relieved me of, when I did my first startup. He said, don't think this is, everybody cannot do Facebook or Google or Amazon. There are only few, handful of them. And that too also, what is happening to Facebook now. But it's like Kohinoor is only one, Facebook is only one, Instagram is only not every company is going to be that. So look for string of pearls.
Wow.
Right? Wow. And that really relieved me of all the pressure while doing startups. I said, it's okay. I did a bunch of startups. None of those were Kohinoors. I never got billions of dollars, but few millions were fine. At the end, what you need is, what is a rich man? A rich man is the one when he has $1 when he needs one. Suppose you have million when you need $1. You have million. How does it matter? Yeah. You need 100,000, you have 100,000. You fact that you have 10 billion in the bank. How does it matter?
True, 100%. Right? And I think you make a lot of sense, sir, because it's not a race. It's not a 100-meter sprint, right? It's a marathon, and we got to pace ourselves. Maybe the first 5 minutes, we're going to struggle a lot to get our body warm. The next 10 minutes, we might gain some momentum, and maybe by the 15th minute, we'll catch up pace.
That's right.
Everybody has their own timeline and speed.
Yes.
Sir,
I think since we're talking very philosophical, what you said, everybody has their own space. I said, we all are, every planet revolves around its own axis. Right?
Yes.
That's, I think, is one way I have understood this. Actually, I have my own journey. It's not same as journey of Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Bezos or Sergey or anybody else, right?
True, sir. 100%. You're very right. And now, when now people can also look at you and say, okay, now you finished that entire journey. It's very easy for you to say at the end of your struggle and the start of your success, or at the very good page of your success. For those people, I want to show them that even you have gone through umpty number of difficulties in many ways, sir. So if I had to ask you, what was that one big, massive, fat challenge that sat in front of you in your career, and how did you overcome it? It could be in the early part of your career, or it could be even in the latest part of your career.
There have been, many, of course, we all go through many challenges in life. And, the one which, let's say, comes to mind right now is, I did my first startup at a time when the industry, I mean, every few years the industry goes through a downturn. The computer industry was, or IT industry or technology industry was going through a downturn. And I didn't know how I'm going to raise money at that time.
Okay.
And I did have some money we had raised from someone, and we were surviving on that. But there was a time that we didn't know the next payroll, so we all took cuts ourselves. And I mean, the US laws are, the labor laws are that you cannot have an employee on your payroll without having the payroll money in your bank, and they're very strict bylaws, right? So, but management is exempted from that. It's exempt from that. So I think we all took no salary for next few months, and so that we can meet the payroll for employees until we actually find that. And I think, and we did find within, I would say, a couple of months, we found an investor who was able to give us few tens of millions of dollars. But I mean, there was a time that I didn't know what's going to happen. And little I knew at that time, I raised that money on 31st of August, 2001, by the way. You may not be, I don't know whether you were born at that time or not. But
yeah, I was born. I was a very small kid.
oh, yeah. So, well, I raised money at that time, and that was 31st of August. Again, I repeat, on 2001. And you know what happened 11 days from that day,
Yeah.
9/11. And that's when we say that now prior to that, we used to say there is light at the end of the tunnel. Now we say light at the end of the tunnel has been permanently switched off. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel is going to be dark. Now we don't know what is going to happen when. So we all went into cryogenic freeze in a way. I mean, there was so much uncertainty in the market after 9/11. People didn't know that whether these terrorist attacks will continue. I mean, many of, as you said, people are young and they may not know this. Prior to that, at the airports, we didn't have much security, including in India. All these security measures that you all are born with now, they all came in US, in India. US is even more secure, by the way. There are more security measures. They all came after 9/11. I remember when I kind of went to pick up my wife I was in Atlanta. She flew from India first time up. We got married in India. Then she flew after a couple of months to join me. I could go all the way to the gate pretty much to pick her up. I mean, that's how, I mean, you see in the old movies, people go even to the, I mean, like the Kumar, like that old Rajendra Kumar movie, right? Something, right? I mean, this kind of, all these, I mean, the world that we knew prior to that and the world we got to know after that, there were two different worlds. And we didn't know how long this will continue. So people didn't have, it was just so much uncertainty. And the market, I mean, when you're working on a startup and newer technology, I'm not talking about this e-commerce. I mean, e-commerce needs are always there. I mean, ever since e-commerce has come, you copy somebody in US, and here most of the companies are like that, right? I mean, they end up becoming copycats of somebody in US. But I mean, we were building technology that didn't exist. True. And so what we did was we made sure that now, okay, we can perfect it. And then, continue this journey and wait for market to come back up. And nobody knew when it's going to happen.
Yeah. Sometimes they say entrepreneurship is like chewing glass and smiling.
That's a very good one.
Yeah. So, like now,
like COVID. I mean, like COVID. Nobody knew what is going to happen.
Yeah.
When it's going to end? Will it ever end? Right?
Yeah. So now I have a question which pertains to the growth phase of your entrepreneurship journey. A lot of times, many people start their company bootstrapped, especially when they don't have experience or when they don't have an MVP or they don't have a proven concept. Now, if an individual who wants to go into this funding phase, like if he wants to get an investor on board, what are the things he must think of first? What makes him say, yes, I need an investor, or no? Second, how does this individual actually find the investor? Where do they find them?
See, and by the way, I mean, and I mean, since my profile on LinkedIn has this, and I'm an investor, I do get a lot of requests. And unfortunately, most of the people who approach me, they have the same question, and most of those startups are not fundable. And so it's a very relevant question. See, a fundable startup has to be the one which is pursuing an idea, which has potential of becoming a simple one is potential of becoming $1 billion company.
Yes.
Whether it ends up becoming, or whether you can think $1 billion, you can count $1 billion, that does not matter. but the idea should be that big that it ends up becoming a very big idea.
Okay.
Right now, when I'm saying billion, could be 100 million, then you need different kind of investors. So I have kind of shared in my channel sometimes that, there are various category of investors. You have friends and family, you have HNIs, high net worth individuals who can be your angels, and you have smaller institutional investors, and you have larger institutional investors, then you have the private equity firms. Now, all these have different ticket sizes. Ticket size, how much money they invest. A friend and family guy may, let's say in Indian context, may give you 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 15 lakh, like that. A HNI may give you, let's say 50 lakh or 1 crore or 2 crore, right? And a smaller institutional investors can, let's say, 3 investors come together and let's say you're raising in USD. So they may all give you a 5, 10, $15 million. And then larger ones may give you $50 million. And the P firm, SoftBank and all, they give you hundreds of millions of dollars, right? I mean, that's kind of the category. Now, everything depends on, a guy will not give you $200 million if your company is not worth, or going to be worth eventually $20-30 billion. If I don't know how many of your audience would have watched a TV series called We Crashed, that was about WeWork, and that, how that guy raised billions of dollars from SoftBank. I mean, the SoftBank guy saw a potential that was going to be hundreds of billions of dollars.
So this is the one on Netflix, right? That you're saying?
No, this is actually on Apple TV.
Apple TV, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I think everybody who's also listening to you right now should, watch these things, because all of us watch, but what we watch matters most, right? So watching these things that give you insights are very important. Yes, sir. Go on.
So that's a category of investors, and then how much money they will invest in you and all that. And so suppose you're doing an IT services company.
Okay.
In typical IT services company, when I'm saying typical, meaning in today's world, may not have a potential of reaching multi-billion dollars, though some of the large companies in India are IT services company, but they were kind of started in a different time and they kind of became big. There's no differentiation now an IT services company can bring to the market. Very rare to find that, right? Correct. Unless, again, Chat GPT may open the rules of the market in few months or years. Then nothing. But or let's say you have a business, and even if you have a business which could potentially become, but you may not be presenting that way, right? So that all these things are, matter. I mean, do you understand? Like, somebody the other day I read, they had done a business of Samosa King or Samosa Singh, sorry.
Samosa Singh, yeah.
Right? In Bangalore. Now, a very commendable thing. They made 45 crore, they said, right? In 5 years, right? Now you look at the business. Had they approached somebody for raising money 5 years ago, I mean, they have not reached billions of dollars. Suppose they approached SoftBank, it's wrong, right? They would have approached some friends and family to get initial money. A 45 crore business in 5 years qualifies them. 5 years earlier would have qualified them to get money from either friends or family or HNIs.
Makes sense. So you're saying if you have a business model that is tested, proven, and scalable, then you have a chance of actually getting funded, especially from HNIs and upwards.
Yes. Scalable to a very high level. Now, depending upon the level, now a Samosa King, now somebody may make Samosa Singh, sorry, somebody may make an argument. If they get now, let's say, as you said, they are proven 45 crore. I don't know how many branches they have. I haven't seen their business plan. But now let's say they go to somebody, they say, I want to raise 1,000 crores. I want to take this 45 crore to 45,000 crores. Right? I want to have Samosa Singh in every corner in India, right? I mean, given India's population, you can achieve, I'm sure, 45,000 crore in that. And, I think somebody may give them 1,000 crore, right?
Yeah,
that's
true.
Kind of, you have proven yourself in 5 years, even though it took longer, but it's okay. You've proven yourself. Now you can scale, right?
Makes sense. So just changing the antics a little bit. Now, I'm a very young entrepreneur. I have a business, but I have not had investors. Now, where do I find Mr. Sanjay Sehgal, who I can go talk to and kind of bring him into my inner circle of network, so that in the future or in the near future, that he could be one of my allies or he could be one of my investors? Where can I actually find you, and where, not just you, anybody else who could be an investor? What would be the game plan here?
So see, every city generally has angel groups,
Correct.
right? TIE is there. There's an organization like TIE and few others. Now, and there are many startup conferences being held everywhere where investors go. It's a process. I mean, it's a beauty contest, right? I mean, I must say that thing, like, unfortunately, I mean, it may sound sexist because the girls generally typically go through the beauty contest, and the guys go through the startup contest. But there's no difference. I mean, you're kind of going around. You have to be. I mean, one quality that, as I said, be bindas and be shameless. I mean, that holds. That holds. And I think you have to be shameless in asking people for money. You know, if you think, "Oh, yaar, kaise main puchunga?" Yeah, then I think that's you're not made for this, right?
Yeah.
Very rarely it happens that you get a call, and that may happen in cases. It has happened in cases where your product idea is such that still somewhere somebody would have or should have heard about your idea to be able to place that call, and he found that idea to be so defensible. Other thing I find, a lot of startups in today's market, they are not defensible. I mean, they're like copycats of something, right? And you may find that, yeah, you may become very big, but there are many companies like that, and everybody can start a company like that, right?
True. I think what you said is very true, because what happens over time is that the real ones stay and the rest of them get weeded out. And that's when it's a true test of metal. Like, are you really talking, business, and are you here to stay on the long run and adapt to the change? I feel that's what happens.
Yes, that's right.
So now, also one more thing from an investor's perspective. What do you think is the disadvantage of getting an investor on board for a startup?
I mean, you do lose some control, right? I mean, not in case of friends, family, or HNIs, but if you get some institutional investor, the pro is that you get perhaps someone who is wiser about this whole process, right? And that's where selection of investors is not just the money. It's also what kind of investor. Do they have operating background on their own to be able to assist you in your journey as an entrepreneur? And con is that obviously you'll lose some control, right? And if your idea is a multi-billion-dollar idea, I mean, at the end you'll find that you will have to share the pie with somebody. But at the end, I mean, I would say any idea which is worth that much would require more than one person to take it to the end goal. So, I mean, you can't do it yourself. And all the large companies, except for the Ambanis and all these guys, I mean, those are different times and different eras and different businesses. They did something else. I mean, we'll not dissect them, but I mean, those are different things. But other businesses all do require, I mean, if you want to do it over a 50-year time period, then it's one cycle, one trajectory you follow. You want to do it in 5-10 years, and it's a different trajectory you follow, right?
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And for me, right now, as I'm journeying in my entrepreneurial journey, when I talk to you, a lot of fill in the blanks is happening, right? I know pretty much all of this, but there's one narrow perspective that I might have missed. And like you said, getting people smarter than you and much more experience actually fills these gaps and makes your entire journey smoother.
Absolutely.
So now, moving on, I want to know you more as an individual. So tell me if there is any habit or any specific routine that you follow over the last 5 years that has actually changed your life. It could be from a physical perspective, mental perspective, or even from your philosophical perspective.
I think one thing which has, Lalith, something that I have followed always, I mean, I would say my professional journey, in a way, has always been driven or fueled, by my practice of meditation.
Oh, wow.
Fortunately, I was exposed to meditation right when I was 23 years old.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I was working, I just moved to US, and I was exposed to meditation, and so my entrepreneurial, some people think, no, yaar, ye to guy ban jayega after meditation. Or I mean, when I tell them, look at my example, I mean, you become, only thing is your passion also gets another dimension of compassion. That's the only thing. Passion doesn't reduce, but it gets a calm in front of it also. So I think it's very important to understand that having that grounding, like I think we were talking earlier philosophically, having that grounding, having that ability to understand things. I mean, or most importantly, ability to manage yourself through this entire journey. That was very useful for me. I mean, in the first one, and in the first startup, we went through ups and downs. I'm telling you the time, and that was my first startup. And I had two other co-founders with me, and both of them almost like had a heart attack through the journey. And they used to look at me and they say, "Man, how come you are like this?" And I mean, that's because of meditation, right? I mean, we used to go to Sand Hill Road in Palo Alto, every few months, and come back with a lot of rejections. And I would not see them for a week because they are kind of depressed. And I am next day morning, I'm in the office, smiling and jumping and all. I mean, the life goes on, man. I mean, it's okay, right? I mean, I say often about this that success is like going from one failure to another failure with equal enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Like you said, chewing glass. I mean, and being happy. I mean, that's like, I mean, failures are part of life. I mean, failures are lessons for you.
Yeah, definitely, sir. And I think only if you see them as learning lessons can you actually move on. Because I feel it's moving on from failure is very important and you should not get stuck to it. And this happens when you don't have wisdom or maturity. Like when you're seeing something for the first time, you're coming fresh out of college, you're rejected for the first time, you've never been said no to in your house, but now society is completely telling no to you. I think it's fair. It's really okay to fail. And this is where I tell some of my college children and their parents, okay, parents come to me and say, Lalith sir, please ask my child to study. If they don't study, he'll become a failure for life. I said, first of all, he'll become a failure for life if you mention that he's a failure for life. Let him fail.
Hey, beautiful. Yes, absolutely.
He's failed. Why don't you pick him up and tell him, listen, I have made everything to support you. This time when you fail better. Rather than getting a 17 out of 100, try getting a 25 out of 100. But parents, I also feel, are a little entitled. I mean, we also come from a very societal nation where we know everybody's inner whispers and each other's secrets. But I think this is very important, sir. And I think you put it so well. Failure is important. How did you perceive failure, especially when you were 23 and you were doing meditation? Did meditation change the way you perceived failure?
Yeah, I think meditation pretty much guided me through everything. And not just only failure, I would say. Only even how to maintain my, my sanity through even the successes. How to take successes in my stride as much as failures, right? And that's, I think, all part of this. I mean, it refines, it helps you. I think, like we were talking earlier, that not shattering your ego, but transcending your ego. That's kind of the biggest thing, that you learn from meditation, right?
Yes, sir, 100%. And I also feel meditation, because I'm talking to an investor with so much experience, I also feel meditation is that one investment you make in time. And where the dividend is unlimited, not just to this lifetime, to multiple lifetimes if you're a very spiritual person as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So tell me, in terms of investment, what has been the best investment you've made in terms of a business? That's one. And what has been the best investment you have made for yourself?
See, I'll answer the second question first. The best investment for myself has been meditation. The personal investment, you said, outside of meditation, has been an all-time favorite for me. Besides that is that I did, I would say, during COVID time, I adopted two habits, and some of them have stayed with me. One was running. I mean, I kind of I can't say I'm a marathon runner, but I do run short distances and various times, and that has had that habit, and that ability has stayed with me, and that has been very, very helpful. That is why, I mean, how I'm able to maintain my fitness besides doing, yoga and meditation and other things. And other is audiobooks. And what helps me sustain those walks or those runs is that I continue to listen to. I mean, you don't feel your mind doesn't go then how long have you run, or whether you lost your breath and all that, right? Right?
Yeah. So is there a specific platform or app you use for your audiobooks, sir?
I use Audible mostly. I use Audible, and I know in India there are other ones which are very popular, Cuckoo FM and few others. And I use Map My Walk, for running. I mean, just to tell me how far or how much I have run and all that, right?
Yeah. So if I could ask you, out of the audiobooks or the books that you've read, that you could suggest 3 books or 2 books for youngsters who want to become entrepreneurs and make it big in terms of monetary and success in life, what would be those books? Any suggestions?
So I think one it's not about startup ideas or anything. It is more about you as a person, because like I said, the biggest thing through all this is managing yourself. Because if you're able to manage yourself through whatever happens, then shit can happen and you'll be fine. So there's a book called Power of Habits.
Ah.
Yeah, and I think I really loved that book, And other book, I mean, I'm a very kind of a data guy, so there's a book, very, very good book. I keep going back to that. I think if I remember the name correctly, I think it says Data Never Lies.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it's a New York Times bestseller, a beautiful book. I mean, we'll just take you through various phenomena that we see around us and myth about that versus the data. And the data never lies. Like, I mean, I think what intrigued me was, I think the first chapter where it says that why Trump won. I mean, Trump was going to win based on their data. The number of searches that they saw, right? When they did the big data analytics, and the number of searches people were doing in those swing districts for Trump, Pence versus, Clinton, and nobody remembers the name of our vice president candidate now. I mean, I think Howard Dean or something. I mean, it's very intriguing. And then they go through the various phenomena in the world. I mean, things that matter to us, not just elections, but things that matter to us on daily life, and data never lies.
Nice. I'm sure I've read the first book. I've not read the second book, but I definitely am intrigued to know about the second book, and I shall buy it today itself. Sir, now moving on, what is the piece of advice you would give every other entrepreneur right now, especially from the year 2023 in perspective? What should they keep in mind if they're about to start a business? An advice or two in a few lines.
I would say that, first of all, they should be bindas, not uptight about what they're doing. That generally is chill. People, many of the startup founders I meet, there is you cannot, I mean, we call this in US as Steve Jobs syndrome, that people are they start behaving as if they're already Steve Jobs. And as I said, there's only one Kohinoor, one Steve Jobs. So don't pretend, don't live his life, live your life. That's very, very important. And I think unless they learn to do that, even if they become as successful as Steve Jobs, they won't be able to enjoy it as much. I mean, I have, through my stays in India, I have met some of the very highly successful Indian entrepreneurs. And I don't want to tell you their secrets, and their secrets in the sense of the struggles they go through in their lives, or they continue to go through in their personal life, the relationship in their families and all that. You don't want to be that, I think. I mean, you want to be able to enjoy life throughout this journey and beyond. So just chill a bit. Right? Spend time with people around you, whether it be your parents, with your family, and you'll relish that.
Yeah.
That'll give you the strength you need.
So I also feel a lot of times entrepreneurship is the kind of sexy job that most people want, but most people aren't willing to put in the work that it really takes. Because, like I said, it's chewing glass and smiling. Not just that, sometimes we think entrepreneurship is about getting out from the rat race. But I feel sometimes you're getting out of the rat race to throw yourself into a termite fight.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So what do you think about this? Like, do you think all this perception is just for the ones who are not an entrepreneur, and how should you deal with that?
No, that is true. I mean, once you get into it, I mean, see, people, there's a common question. Are you born an entrepreneur or leader? Some people say, are you
Made.
a made leader, a made, born and all that. I mean, everybody is a leader. You have to unleash. I have come up with this term. You have to unleash that leadership thing or entrepreneurship thing from inside you. You all have it. You have hidden it somewhere. You're a leader. We're all a born leader, but I mean, doesn't mean that, I mean, I'm shy. The most successful leaders, they say, have always been introverts.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
True.
these myths that we say, oh, extroverts, or I can't talk, so I can't be. No. Again, these are
Why,
from
sir?
yourself.
Why do you think introverts tend to become much more successful
They're,
leaders?
they're more thoughtful. They're more introspective. They are more thoughtful. They pause before taking a decision. So they are better leaders. I won't say, I mean, leader is not just being a political leader, standing at the rooftop and shouting, vote for me. Leadership is more about taking people along with you, getting people's respect, leading people, not making people vote for you,
True.
right? Leading people, leading ordinary people do extraordinary things. Maybe that's a mantra for you.
I think that's a great one. I think in fact that's a great one. And so I think this has been one very, very, very insightful conversation. We're coming to the fag end of our conversation. Before we wrap up, I have just a couple of questions to ask. So you've received a lot of these awards, a lot of accolades and recognitions. How do you not let it get to your head?
I must tell you, my wife is watching me through this. She said that she's the grounding factor in all this. She's prompting me to say that. But I mean, I think that's the family. I think, see, family, society, things around you, nature, the world. I mean, you are a grain of sand in this vast universe, right? Like we talked about this Mahatma Gandhi being on a rupee bill, but how many people remember him on a daily basis? I mean, I think that's something that says it all. I mean, that your grounding is people around you. I mean, you don't become a different person just because somebody else has learned that you are, let's say, you're good at something. It's their perception of you has changed. You have not changed. Right?
And in the process of this success and accolades and awards that you get, you also go through this bad patch where you might have burnouts, where you're working excessively beyond your brain's capacity or your body's capacity. How do you actually deal with burnouts as an individual, and do you actually have burnouts? And if you did, what's the recipe?
I mean, I'm going to say the same word which I have repeated earlier: meditation. For me, or let's not meditate. Just pause. Few moments of pause and silence can help you much, in a much better way than hours and hours of activity. Right? They say a job well done, one job well done is a lot better than 100 pending jobs, right? I mean, that's no brainer. So I think I have always been a strong supporter of prioritizing.
Okay.
My
something like a tool, a calendar, or how do you prioritize yourself?
No, I mean, I prioritize in my head a lot, but I mean, I think to-do list. I mean, I don't use a tool as per se. I use my old-fashioned diary, But what I do is, I think how it helps me is let's say I have a lot of things going on in my mind, in my life, in my mind. When I sit for meditation, it takes me 5-10 minutes to clear my head. Beyond all those things, to go to the silence zone. Once I am in my silence zone, towards the end of it, one or two things pop up that these are important. And they may not be even in the list I was thinking I had in my head or in my diary. I may have forgotten to do something which my son may have asked me some time back, right? And I have to do that. Then at the end of the silence zone, when I come out, first thing I do is they do that thing.
Nice.
Now that is not only gives, I mean, obviously it'll make him happy, but the sense of fulfillment you will get, by doing something that you're supposed to do, but you didn't do it on time. It was just kind of gone in the back burner somewhere. And that's why silence or meditation is so important.
Very interesting. And sometimes, things can get a little crazy if you're not in the right space at the right time. I've also realized this as an individual, sir. Like, I understand entrepreneurship very well, right? I want your personal advice to me, like directly to me. I've understood entrepreneurship. In fact, I did my master's in international entrepreneurship. I've also had a lot of friends and people like this, like similar to yourself, who've come onto my show and who've shared their interest. As much as I enjoy it at certain levels, as much as I understand entrepreneurship, I've somehow realized that it is not for me. I feel the creative space is where I enjoy being in. So first of all, do you think it's is it a right understanding that, I'm more of a creator and I like being a creative individual? Because entrepreneurship is all about systems and getting things done, and you're regulating the whole thing. So what do you think about this?
See, they say that why people are having all these burnouts these days is because we are beginning to use our mind more as a holding tank of information than a creative tool. And mind's creativity you can unleash only when the tank is empty. There's so much information in the tank that the creative side of the brain never comes up, to the surface to begin working. Now, I think that answers your question. I think if only you're able to go through all that clutter to the silent zone, the creativity and mind as these days in today's world, when all the information that you need is there in Google or Chat GPT and all that. We have no, honestly speaking, there was a time we used to remember everybody's number. Your dad's time, Lalith, right? And I used to remember every friend's number, phone number, right? And now do we need to? No. Right? And same way, I used to remember everybody's birthday. Do I need to? No. Right? And I am saying not in an arrogant, we all have tools now. The Facebook will tell you 2 days before if you do the right setting, which birthday is coming, right? And I think in today's era, and there is a lot to remember also now these days, a lot more to remember. I think we should all learn. I am not an anti-technologist. People of my age say, "Hamare time mein to aisa hota tha. Wo acha time tha." I am not one of those guys. I'll say use these modern tools effectively.
Correct.
Use these modern tools effectively to really get to the creative side of your brain.
I think that's a great point, and I will definitely take it home, and I will ensure that I will drive it. Sir, now last question. You just spoke about Chat GPT, so I was going to end with this, but I have a last question. So Chat GPT, what do you think about it? First part of the question. Second, would you ever invest into Chat GPT if you were presented an opportunity, let's say 3 or 4 years back when the model was actually being worked on at a very initial stage? What's your thought?
No, definitely. I think, Chat GPT, of course, has, really created a lot of, I would say, both controversy and new opportunities. And it's almost like a nuclear energy. It was like the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's almost like that now, right now. And I think it has definitely, turned things into, I would say, in that mode. But I think for us, I would have definitely invested in it as a company. In my company, Msys, not Chat GPT, but we were one of the first ones to work in bringing AI to cloud and data storage.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, it was for different purpose. Obviously, it was not for the purpose of now. I mean, what Chat GPT, what it is creating here is that it is actually unleashing the whole content side of things. I mean, it is people are really from the content perspective are thinking about its usefulness. People don't have to write anything. People can write books, poems, prose. I mean, anything they want, they can write these days, right? Using Chat GPT. So I think, I mean, if you look, I would have invested. I'm a big fan of this technology, but like nuclear energy, right? I think this can also be misused, right? It can be misused to, in many different ways. And I think we as humanity, I mean, have to learn to regulate this. And people shouldn't be surprised if they find out that soon there are some regulations in place. I mean, already you're finding that some schools are banning the use of it and some organizations are banning the use of it. And that will happen.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And Chat GPT now has become the latest trend in the society and everybody's talking about it. In fact, AI is going to take a lot more shape. Chat GPT is just one feather in that hat, which has become very obvious. And I'm sure as the years come by, artificial intelligence is only going to get integrated. And if we take it to another level, like Elon Musk says, artificial intelligence could be actually integrated with real intelligence into our human brain through neural links and stuff like that. It gets crazy.
No, absolutely. I think it has a lot of potential, so.
Yeah. So thank you so much for accepting and coming on our show. It was great to have you. I, for one, have gained so much from this podcast in terms of insights, in terms of values. You are for sure an inspiration for so many people like me who are entrepreneurs and aspiring to be entrepreneurs and help society also get into that space. Thank you once again. And it's been a real honor and pleasure to have you on my show, sir. And thank you for this lovely chat.
Thanks for, I really enjoyed this talking to you, Lalith, and looking forward to seeing you as the next Steve Jobs.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Who knows? I'll be watching you, man.
Yes, thank you, sir.